Welcome, welcome, welcome to everybody who is tuning in to the People's Podcast. This is not the podcast. This is an offshoot series, but my name is still Boomguy, and I am here with a different guest. This is Andy. Andy, say hi to the people.
Hey, how's it going?
I said say hi, not how's it going.
Oh, man. Do we need to...
No, we'll work on it.
Hello? No, that's still not hi.
We'll work on it. That was awful. You tried twice. Okay, so anyway, we are here with a new series. Sorry for the rough intro, everybody. He is not a professional like your boy Boom Guy is. We are doing a new series. This is episode or number 4 in that series. We are talking about decks. We're loosely calling it All Hands on Decks. It's very punny. We like it. We hope you do too. If you've seen the first 3 episodes, you know basically how this works. We're going to talk about decks. We are here to highlight deck builders and decks that we think haven't gotten enough visibility. Like maybe they didn't land on the front page, didn't get a ton of likes. Maybe their deck builders were fairly new. So we just want to highlight them and show them off. So last time we picked a theme. The theme was Nowhere. So we each had to pick a deck that featured Nowhere in it. This time, the theme that I chose was Rogue. So we each bought a deck that is either the hero rogue. I suppose you could have built it around the ally rogue. I didn't even think about that.
Yeah, Rogue, Slayer of Minions. This is an aggression rogue that is by a deck builder who has by far one of my favorite names, which is Zany Llama. And
That is good.
as you look at the cards, you might think that might be a little on the zany side, particularly the use of a card that I don't know that I see all that often, which is Beat 'em Up. 2 cost, 1 damage to the villain and each minion engaged with you.
Yeah.
I mean,
Not since Ultron, but
right? Oh man, that is the only time I think I've ever played Beat 'em Up. But this deck I've loved in that it does have a lot of interesting synergies around it and things that when it comes to Rogue, I don't necessarily expect. So oftentimes when it comes to aggression can be highly situational. And things like using Chase Them Down, which is an OG core set card to thwart, is tough because you have to defeat an enemy. You have to have an enemy out, and you have to be able to defeat them when you attack. And the best part about someone like Rogue is that you are able to use your superpower adaptation when you touch an ally, a red ally, in order to bring it back if you know you're about to use it. And then this deck comes with lots of things to help reward that defeating of a minion. And whether it's using Gatekeeper, and if you do it yourself, you have Gatekeeper, Precision Strike to heal, Chase Them Down. I love that it's able to use those things, but then if you want to use your allies to do it, because Wolverine with attack training is a nice 4 attack, and you can use War Room if you still want to thwart based on Wolverine slicing through someone. And then, of course, one way to help soften everyone up is just to do a good old-fashioned beat 'em up. So I loved the way this deck played through. I thought it was interesting. When I play Rogue, I'm used to using superpower adaptation because of putting touched on a hero or putting touched on the villain in order to prep for Bulletproof Bell. And this gave me just a different use of Rogue that I really appreciated. And so I loved playing this deck, and I thought this should have gotten more likes than it did.
yeah, I think I didn't play this deck, so I am just kind of taking it in with you. I did look at the list beforehand. I think there are some interesting choices here. I think Beat 'em Up is an interesting choice, but the deck builder did say in his description, I think he doesn't have the entire collection, so it could be a small collection thing, but I didn't think it was out of place if you are trying to pull out a bunch of minions, looking for trouble seems like it would fit in this deck. That seems to me like one of the most obvious exclusions. And I also thought about some other allies, particularly Thor of Asgard, Valkyrie, and then Dust was the other one I really came up with. And I thought Dust would be a cool one to, same as Beat 'em Up, really like hit a bunch of things in once. So I don't want to be too critical. Again, I didn't play the deck, but there's a couple that to me just felt like they really would have fit. Sunfire is a very situational ally that I I really only sideboard or run if I think it's necessary. 2-cost allies are good, of course, but his whole ability really kind of is wasted unless you have a target for it. But overall, I thought this was a really cool idea. I like that this deck builder, included, of course, a team up card and also included beat 'em up, which, like you said, is just a cool way to go. Yeah, it's an interesting deck. And how was your experience playing it?
Yeah, it was pretty good. I do think you're right that Sunfire didn't always go off, and I feel like there was a period there in the early parts of the X-Men wave where Sunfire was included as a, just in case. Like, it's a super nice ability, and especially with someone like Magneto, where you didn't want to go through the pain of dealing with the hero responses. That it was a good way to deal with that. So Sunfire became kind of an auto include. But I'm definitely with you of Dust was in the collection at this time, and so there is the ability to use it and to really create that theme of softening up minions only for you to take them out.
Yeah.
And so in terms of playing, I loved it. I loved getting to use Precision Strike to heal and then chase them down to remove threat, especially if they had Gatekeeper, and I'm just spreading all of those nice effects. And so I did take this up against Ultron because beat 'em up, and I don't think I realized how satisfying it was to just stack up, 4 or 5 minions and then just beat 'em up and be done.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, if you are playing against Ultron and you're doing beat 'em up, like Bring It is a solid addition too,
That's true, yeah. And that's like with these limited collection decks, because you find them every so often in Marvel CDB, and I hope people post, like, you don't have to have the full collection to post a deck. And for those of us who may have a full collection, that's where it's great to, like you noticed, looking for trouble. This person may not have either the reprints or what came out through Galaxy's Most Wanted, but like you do, and you saw that, and so it's like, okay, I'm going to bring in 2 copies of it and maybe take out 1 copy of Precision Strike and 1 copy of Gatekeeper or something like that. Like, I think that's a great call out, and hopefully people don't just ignore it because they have a full collection and this person didn't, but to get to use some creative, like, here's how I'm going to sub it in and out.
I also think there can be a danger sometimes, like, I'm running a minions deck and then there's just like the standard package, right? So it's just like, it's looking for trouble and Bring It and Marked and whatever. Those aren't necessarily the package, but like looking for trouble, Throg, Angela. Like there's just a package that often comes out when you're doing minion builds like that. And I think that leads to a lot of decks feeling pretty homogenous. Like they're just like, this is a minions deck. I can probably guess 17 of the 25 cards, right?
Yeah.
Just off the top of my head. It's like the resources and looking for trouble and Throg. And so like Angela, like you just get those over and over again. It's nice sometimes to either have a limited collection or have someone who says like, no, I'm not going to include looking for trouble because I don't need to optimize this deck. I'm going to try something different and use cards that, are gathering dust, quite frankly, and beat 'em up.
Beat 'em up.
Yeah. So I think it's cool.
Yeah. Agreed. And I do hope that when you play it, for anyone who wants to try this out, please keep beat 'em up in, see what it's like.
Yeah.
Like I do.
Don't just take it out.
Up.
Yeah.
Right. Absolutely. Just a quick heads up that beat 'em up is not an attack. So that is great in that you don't have to worry if you are stunned, but it doesn't trigger chase them down. So it needs to be the first thing you do to set up the minion destroying, not the thing you do to destroy the minions, unless you're doing Ultron and then just, wreak havoc.
That's a good shout. I never realized that beat 'em up was not an attack. I now have a card that I may think about including in my Vision Bring It deck because I'm always looking for things that aren't attacks that can deal damage. And so there's one, Bombs Away is one that I love recently for that deck because it's not an attack. You just exhaust an aerial character and then you deal 3 damage to everything when you're ready to start clearing things out. But beat 'em up might be a good inclusion too. So
yeah,
I hadn't realized
it's a great idea. I like that.
So I'm going to tweak that deck maybe and throw it in, see how it works. I think, okay, so Spike, Johnny, Timmy is kind of the classification system we're using. Look back at previous episodes if you don't know what that means. What kind of a player does this appeal to? What do you think?
So solely because of beat 'em up, I'm gonna call this a Johnny deck. I do think this is more on the creative side. And the other deck that I hope that beat 'em up sees is someone who wants to use exploit weakness with Cyclops just to make it do 2 damage to anyone who has that attached to them,
Mm.
because it will up the damage on it. But
Mhm.
that aside, I definitely see this as a full-on Johnny deck in that it is creative in terms of how it tries to manage both doing thwarting as a solo deck, which in aggression is kind of tough to do without the
Mhm.
full collection, without things like Smash the Problem or the direct approach. And so in this deck, we have a creative way to help make sure that we are managing our thwart, but still getting to do damage. And with Rogue, you get the overkill for attaching to I think it's to a minion gives you overkill. How great is that?
Yeah, touch gives you overkill if attached to a minion. It gives you aerial if attached to an ally. If that's what you're using for superpower adaptation, there's things
Hmm.
you could do there, but I don't know. Yeah, there's nothing that takes advantage of aerial, I don't think, in here.
Yeah. But yeah, in this case, you kind of want overkill if you're gonna do lots of minion slaying. Like
Yeah,
get some free damage to the villain.
yeah, 100%. Yeah, no, this is a cool deck, and I hope people check it out. Of course, I will add the link down below. If you liked this deck or have played this deck or want to just comment on this deck, please leave a comment down below. We are interested to hear your thoughts. If anyone's played this, maybe not. Zany Llama only has 20 clout on Marvel CDB, so not throwing shade, just saying they may not have gotten what they deserve. So hopefully they get some
Yep.
likes out of this and some comments. All right,
What
I
what did you
also.
bring?
Ooh, I'm glad you asked. I thought we were going to end without
Thanks.
me having a chance to share
Oh,
my
that'd be so
deck.
sad. That'd be like half an episode.
That would be sad. And I'm not here to give the people half an episode. I'm here to give the people what they want. So let me share my deck. My deck is an older one. It is called Mega Woman. I'm cheating a little bit. Classy Robot is the deck builder, and he has a score that is higher than we generally would look at for these lists. But I love this deck so much, and it's an older deck for a hero I think that is not universally loved. So I thought it deserved a shout out anyway. And also, you'll see why I like this deck in a few minutes. So, the Mega Woman deck, first, I have to say right off the top, it is a 41 card deck. However, Touched is one of the 41 cards, so it is technically only a 40 card deck. If you are a 40 card truther, you can rest easy. This is still just a 40 card deck. I am a heretic and generally go above that, so that's a different conversation. Here we are.
No, I think you're great.
This
I
deck
think
is.
I think
Go.
sorry, go.
Go. No, go. Say it. You have a hot take. Say it.
Well, no, I don't know that. I don't know if this is the deck to do it on. Like, I'm glad that you're not a 40 card truther. I
Oh,
think that
man.
that is not necessarily something for every deck, and I'm
No.
tired of people not publishing just because it's like, oh, it's 42 or oh, it's 44. Like, it's okay. Now,
Mm-hmm.
like, anyway, no, I'm
Or
not gonna
they
get on the soapbox.
publish.
I'm gonna wait.
Okay.
I'm gonna
Okay.
wait for a
We'll wait.
44 card deck or something.
We're gonna
I'm
get one
sorry.
because I think people publish decks sometimes, and then immediately like the Marvel CDB intelligentsia is like, oh, this is 44 cards. Like I can't even like this. Like how? Why you got to
Right.
cut these cards? That's nonsense. You could play a 44 card deck and you wouldn't notice the difference until you played it 1,000 times. Anyway, we'll get on that soapbox a different time. But for now, let's talk about Classy Robot's Mega Woman. This is a rogue protection deck which centers around attaching to androids. Now, there are not a ton of androids. Most of them are in protection. So this runs the full suite of them, as far as I can tell. Vivian, Victor Mancha, Machine Man, and Jocasta. The idea is to touch them and use to steal their traits in order to be able to play the key card Reboot. So attaching to an ally gives Rogue Aerial, which opens up Ever Vigilant, an excellent aerial card. It also opens up Reboot because all of them are androids, so you can ready a friendly android character and heal 1 damage from it. So you could use that for Rogue herself, or you could use that for one of the allies. I think generally you're meant to do it for yourself. But this is built around a lot of readies. So Ever Vigilant, Reboot, and then of course the classic Repurpose. So you can play Energy Barrier or Plasma Pistol and use those to pitch them and boost your stats and ready yourself, and then you can use reboot and ever vigilant and everything else to just ready yourself again and again. If you touch Machine Man or Vivian, you can use superpower adaptation to get reboot back. If you touch Victor Mancha or Jocasta, you can get ever vigilant or repurpose back in your hand with superpower adaptations. There's a lot of different loops here. This is a really, really fun deck. There is a rather long write-up, so I will spare you all that. The excellent image down below, I love that. And I also love his final line that he says, if you like the deck, feel free to place touched on the like button. So I love that. I love everything that has a sense of humor. This deck is great. I have played this deck a lot. It's a couple of years old, but this is the deck that made me fall in love with Rogue. I was kind of on the fence with Rogue before this, but I played this. Everyone who knows me or follows my channel and the podcast knows I'm a huge Vision fan. I love Vision, so anything that has androids or makes me feel like Vision, playing a different character is great. That's what kind of got me into it originally. I was like, oh, cool, it's using androids. But then I played it so many times. This deck is such a great deck. I think, it has 61 hearts and 47 stars. So this is not one that people forgot about. But it is older now. You might make some changes. Maybe you'd swap a few cards out. But honestly, I don't know if you would. Not a lot of android stuff has come out the last couple of years. It also, I will say, one of the things I think is really cool about Rogue. So her touched says it's an upgrade, it's a condition, it has a 0 cost, so it's like it's not permanent, but basically. And it says if touched is attached to a, and then it lists minion, villain, ally, or hero, and then based on that you either get overkill, retaliate, aerial, or stalwart. And that's really cool. All of her events, except for the defense event, we'll skip that one, but like Goin Rogue and Southern Cross, for example, they interact with the specific keywords that Rogue has, not where touched is. So when I first played it, I just kind of made those two the same, and they generally are. However, you can get keywords other ways. For example, this includes Dauntless, which is an awesome include. So if your hit points are at the top and you have Retaliate 1, now when you play Southern Cross, you get Retaliate not based on where touched is, it's based on you have it from Dauntless, and then you can also get another kicker based on where touched is, which is really cool. That is something that I didn't think about or realize when I first played Rogue, because I just equated touched with whatever keyword she has. And those keywords aren't easy to get. Like, you can't just get Stalwart from a card, and you can't just get Aerial from a card. So really the only one I think that applies is Retaliate. But that's such a cool thing to be able to hit multiple kickers, and it makes those cards even better. So this is an awesome deck. What do you think, Andy?
I'm right there with you. I love this thing. Talk about the theme and feeling like I'm Mega Woman, where, man, I'm just ready and blasting. And especially in this deck, which has, 8 ways to ready?
Yeah.
And then that, I believe there's another, energy transfer that also lets her ready?
Yeah. So energy transfer is 2 more. Yeah. 10.
So not only do you have all the heals from Reboot, all the heals from energy transfer, so chances are you will be triggering Dauntless and getting that Retaliate 1, but you're just readied and then just hitting and hitting and hitting. Oh man. And then of course, Plasma Pistol, as opposed to some of the other techs that you might get for repurpose. Talk about a way to do a pew pew with Plasma Pistol. I love it. I thought the theme was so on. And also Plasma Pistol, talk about a card that doesn't get a ton of love.
Yeah, that card does not get a ton of love. There is, other cards in here. He also includes Enhanced Physique. That is a card I don't love. It does generate an extra resource, so sometimes if you have extra stuff, you can just essentially save resources for later. He didn't include What Doesn't Kill Me, which is another classic protection way to ready. And he addresses that in the write-up. He says it's because you don't end up taking that much damage. But you can, with Enhanced Physique, you will for sure hit the resource kicker every time, so you can use that. I played it as is. I also played it with What Doesn't Kill Me in it. And because I am a heretic, I just added what doesn't kill me in. I didn't remove other cards. And I don't know how you think that went, Andy, but it was just fine. The world continued on.
Yeah,
I played a
It
44
it
card
did.
deck
It's
and I
okay.
survived. Yeah.
I'm impressed.
Now, all the nerds who are going to get in my comments and tell me 40 cards is better. Yes, mathematically, 40 cards is better. Like infinitesimally, right? Like, yes, if I play this deck again 1,000 times, there will be a few times when it is valuable that I only have 40 over 44, but I didn't play this deck 1,000 times and I don't care. So that is kind of our recap on Mega Woman. Oh, except we forgot. Classification time.
Yeah.
Spike,
Oh, yeah.
Johnny, Timmy. How do you feel about this one?
Yeah, this to me is a crossover.
Yep.
Like it is a Johnny in terms of the creative with the reboot, but it is very much a Spike deck. Like it does not mess around. Every card you play will gear you towards whatever the next thing is. And so like even though enhanced physique to me is a curious one of like what would I do with it? I do think that could be space for something else. However, it does. I love the idea of, like you said, the storing up resources feels very Mega Man-esque of
Yeah.
like holding the attack, storing up, and then getting to do a lot with those extra resources. So it to me is very much a Johnny Spike deck.
Yeah. I think this is. I mean, I think any deck that uses Rogue is probably somewhat of a Johnny because it's so like you really have to think about where everything's going. There's a lot of little moving pieces. I think this is a pretty big Spike deck though. Like this deck is very strong, and I did not lose very often with this game or with this deck. Rogue has a ton of thwart. If you're playing true solo, she's a ton of thwart built in. And being able to ready multiple times, ever vigilant, plus you're touching people to give yourself a boost on thwart. Like it is just really good. You can thwart a ton, so that's not an issue. There's also plenty of damage in her kit. She's got allies to defend. She has a good defense set herself. Like she's just a well-rounded hero, and I think you will win a lot. So I think this is, it's a Spike Johnny mix, but I would say more Spike than Johnny in my opinion. So if you're that kind of gamer, if you want those strong decks, this is one I would look out for. Well, that is all of it for today. We talked about 2 decks. I think they're both really cool. And I don't know what we're going to do next time, but if anybody has an idea, why don't you go in the comments, give us a theme idea. Maybe we'll pick some decks. And again, if you have decks that you like or that you made and want people to see, or you have just played that aren't yours, you want people to see, put them down below. I think that's really cool. I want to hear from all of you. There's more of you looking at decks than there are me looking at decks. So let's see them. And, Andy, if people want to see us playing these decks on camera, is that something you're open to?
I am totally open. I say we multiverse it up and let Beat 'em Up and Plasma Pistol just wreck shop. One damage all the time.
Let's go. We'll throw Tac Team in there, and we'll just the trifecta of nonsense damage cards. I'm into it. Maybe Tac Team is our next theme, since you are a Tac Team apologist.
I am a Tac Team apologist.
I don't know. We'll see. Then maybe that'll be our next theme. But I think, if people have ideas or people want to see us play these decks, let us know. I'm happy to play them or other decks. If that's something people would enjoy seeing, let us know. And otherwise, we can't wait to see you next time in this series. And we hope everyone has a good one. And we'll see you next time. Bye.
See you later.